The talk title for my message this morning is The Power of One. And I thought that was very fitting in a talk on what we can learn from Mother Teresa. If you ever saw her on television, or if you ever had the opportunity to hear her speak, I did years and years ago. I think it was at one of the universities, University of San Diego, I believe. I was struck by just how tiny she was, and what a force of good she was, the power of one. The song we just sang is an invitation to remember that, and there's another Janice Stanfield song that speaks to the same idea, and an idea that I think Mother Teresa would echo. The song is All the Good, and the line I'm remembering in that Janice Stanfield song is, I cannot do all the good the world needs, but the world needs all the good I can do. Isn't that beautiful? And I think it's really an important thing for us to remember right now, because we might be feeling like the world needs a whole lot of good things being done by a whole lot of people. And while we can't do all of it, and we're not expected to do all of it, I cannot do all the good the world needs, but the world needs all the good I can do. It's a reminder to us that no matter where we are, no matter our financial situation, no matter our educational background, no matter our age or the color of our skin, there is always something that we can do. And that no matter, we always have power. Power to be, power to love, power to do the good that we can do right where we are. And so since Easter, we've been on a journey of taking a look at what we can learn from master teachers. We began with Jesus. We took a look at some of Buddha's teachings, Lao Tzu's teaching, Gandhi's teaching, Martin Luther King Jr.'s teaching, and today, Mother Teresa. And though she was not a biological mother, she was a mother of a faith, a mother of a tradition actually that many people who are in Unity today came from. I don't know if the statistics are still the same now, but I know that for years, more than 80% of the people who found their way into Unity found their way from Catholicism. And so as we look at Mother Teresa, we look at this tiny little person who was truly a force for good and an inspiration to us to always keep our eyes open and our minds open and our heart open and our hands ready to be of service, to make the difference that we can make wherever we might be. She was born in Macedonia in 1910, and she received, after about 2 decades or so, she was serving as a teacher in a convent, and after a couple of decades, she received a second calling. You know, the first was a calling to become a nun, to go into the convent. The second calling was a calling to leave the convent and to found the Missionaries of Charity, which she did in 1950. And the commitment to founding the Missionaries of Charity was to be in service to the poorest of the poor, the poorest of the poor. And for that work, she received tremendous world appreciation and praise. She was given the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979. And something that I didn't know until I was doing more research on this talk was that she really experienced a prolonged period of what we would call the dark night of the soul, where she really wrestled with some of her own beliefs and some of her own faith. And I've heard from some of you that given what's happening in our world today, that some of you are experiencing a dark night of the soul, a time of feeling maybe particularly heavy, or a time of wondering, where is God? And a question I often hear in times like these are, why is God letting this happen? And if we have an anthropomorphic view of God as a being that comes and intervenes, then we would be asking perhaps a question like that. But we don't hold that understanding of God in unity. We understand God as a force of life and energy and love itself, operating in and through us. God can only do in the world, if you will, what God, the energy and presence, finds in us as open vehicles, as being the heart and the hand and the mind of that presence of love. Does that make sense? And yet that requires us to continually show up, even when we might feel that our faith is a little shaken. So I took inspiration from the fact that somebody whose teaching and life inspires me also went through times, and maybe even longer and deeper times than I ever have, of questioning her faith and questioning what's going on. So there are a few themes that I want to share that come forward for me when I think of the teachings of Mother Teresa and the simple message that she gave. Number one is choosing to be used for a higher purpose, a greater good. No matter what it is that we do for a living, or no matter what it is that we have accomplished in our lives, to continually to hold ourselves to the challenge of being used for a higher purpose and greater good. And when we make such a choice, when we are committed to being used for a higher purpose and for greater good, we feel fulfilled. It's as if there is a peace in our soul that is empty until and unless we commit to being that force for greater good. And when we find what that looks like for us, that missing piece, if you will, seems to click into place and is fulfilled. Mother Teresa often used the example of electricity for the role that we are to play in the world, likening the current to God and the wire to you and me. She said, when you look at the inner workings of electrical things, you see wires. Until the current passes through them, there will be no light. That wire is you and me. The current is God. We have the power to let the current pass through us, use us to produce the light of the world, or we can refuse to be used and allow darkness to spread. This is an absolutely true statement of each and every one of us. And you know, the beauty of the work that we do in our personal growth, in our healing work, in our letting go of unforgiveness, in our letting go of bitterness, in our transcending where we might have been hurt or wounded, when we do that work, it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be complete, but when we do that work, we become a clearer channel, a more open, unobstructed wire, if you will, for that current or that flow of divine energy to move through us. It's like cleaning out the pipes so that we are a vehicle, an instrument, like the prayer of Assisi, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. To be that open channel, the best that we can. She says, we have not come into the world to be numbered. We have been created for a purpose, for great things, to love and to be loved. To love and to be loved. I think the world is hungering for love today. I remember a little story, a Sunday school story of two brothers in a Unity Sunday school, learning all about the love of God and the practice of loving. And they came home from Sunday school and they were bickering and fighting. And the mom wanted to know, I thought you guys were just learning about love in Sunday school, that you were supposed to learn to love one another. You were supposed to be a little bit like Jesus teaching to love one another. Yeah, Mom, I know. We learn that stuff. But I think Billy should do it first. You know, too often we're waiting for the other person. I'll love you when you love me back. I'll appreciate you when you appreciate me back. Our teaching goes so much deeper than that. Our teaching challenges us to be the very thing that we want to receive, to be the very thing that we see the world needs. Spread love everywhere you go, she said. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. That's quite a little assignment. Think of what that would look like waiting on a long line in Costco or going through TSA in the airport. There's so many real-life examples we can call ourselves to, right? To say, how have I left this situation? Have I left this situation with the people that I interacted with feeling a little more valued or a little more seen or a little more appreciated? That's doing all the good we can do right where we are. Secondly, building on this is always choosing love. Always choosing love. She said, love has to be put into action, and that action is service. One of the most simple and yet powerful things I remember learning about love many years ago, and it seems so obvious to me now, was when I heard someone say, love is a verb. Because all my life, I think I thought of it more as a noun. Love is something that you feel, and it is that. Love is something that you receive from a parent, a child, a puppy, your lover. Love is something that you receive, and it is that. And yet, what a shift, right? When we really challenge ourselves to remember, and perhaps remember even more, that love is a verb rather than a noun. When it's a verb, it requires what of us? Action. Action, exactly what Mother Teresa said. Love has to be put into action. She followed that with, and that action is service. And certainly in her Missionaries of Charity, she and all of the other sisters in that charity certainly were about that. She said, the hunger for love is much more difficult to remove than the hunger for bread. Think about that for a moment. That's a pretty profound statement. The hunger for love is much more difficult to remove than the hunger for bread. We need to remove the hunger for bread, yes, but I think she's pointing to something that requires a different level of engagement. I can open up my pocketbook and I can give $1, $5, $10, whatever, to somebody who is hungry. And certainly that can make a difference in that moment in time, and I'm not saying don't do that. That's a very private decision. But it's not the same thing as recognizing the hunger for love. You know, I try to practice, if I do give somebody money that is hungry, I try to not just give the money or to go buy the sandwich to give the person, but I really try in that moment to make direct eye contact with that person and try to see that person as a person. And I'll tell you, that can be a practice. That can be a practice. Very easy. If we have it, it's very easy to give the thing, right? But to give of our heart, and I think that's what she was talking about here. The hunger for love is much more difficult to remove than the hunger for bread. Here's another one about love that I think is really powerful. She said, if you want to make peace, you don't talk to your friends, you talk to your enemies. Let that one settle for a moment, right? If you want to make peace, you don't talk to your friends, you talk to your enemies. Why do you think she would say that? I think there are probably a lot of reasons she would say it, but I think that one of the reasons might have been that when we talk to our friends, we are talking to those who are already, by and large, like us, probably thinking like us, probably very similar to us. When she says, if you want to make peace, you don't talk to your friends, you talk to your enemies. When you're talking to your enemy, an enemy can sound like a really harsh word right now, but it's the word she used. When you're talking to your enemy, you're having to get outside, and I'm having to get outside of my own silo of people who think and feel and act like I do. And I think most of us, if not all of us, would agree that part of the challenge we see in our world right now in our country is we're not talking to each other. We're siloed, especially if we are of differing opinions politically. We tend to be siloed. And in that siloing, how can we ever find a path to understanding or bridging if we're only talking to the people who think like we do? And part of the way we reach out is never forgetting that we are still person to person. No matter how different we might see things, it's making the personal connection. Does that make sense? Is it easy to do? I don't think so. I don't think so. If you want to make peace, you don't talk to your friends, you talk to your enemies. Another recurring theme, besides the theme of love, in Mother Teresa's speeches and writings, is to start right at home. She really believed that the home was the foundation for establishing healthy, loving relationships. I know that not all of us grew up in the kinds of homes that maybe were as loving or accepting or as nurturing as we needed it and as we deserved. And here's where reminding ourselves that it really is true that we are all doing the very best that we can given who and what we know in the time that we are doing what we are doing. And sometimes the best that we are doing falls really short. And we might have grown up in an environment or in a home where celebrating something like Mother's Day or Father's Day is the last thing we want to do because it brings up unpleasant memories. And yet I think Mother Teresa is so right in reminding us of the importance of doing what we can do on the home level, on the family level, to create as much love and kindness and understanding as we possibly can. She said, "It is easy to love the people far away. It is not always easy to love those close to us. It is easier to give a cup of rice to relieve hunger than to relieve the loneliness and pain of someone unloved in our own home. Bring love into your home, for this is where our love for each other must start." She also challenged us, saying, if you judge people, you have no time to love them. Isn't that beautiful? If you judge people, if I'm judging someone, I'm squeezing out the energy of love. If I'm judging them, I'm squeezing out the energy of love. If you judge people, you have no time to love them. And so we catch ourselves gently, but honestly and firmly, when that judgment cycle is going on in our mind. We catch ourselves and we challenge ourselves to dial down that judgment and to find one point of connection, one point of contact, one tiny point of agreement with the other and hold that up. In unity, we call this beholding the Christ or beholding the God in the other, seeing it and calling it forth. She emphasized, do what you can do, and do that with courage and joy. That's the real definition of generosity. Do what you can do with courage and joy. That's the real definition of generosity. She said, I ask you one thing, do not tire of giving, but do not give your leftovers. Yeah. I ask you one thing, do not tire of giving, but do not give your leftovers. That last part is really, I've got God bumps, that last part is really an invitation to step up, isn't it? I want to read a story from her book, Mother Teresa in My Own Words. One night a man came to our house to tell me that a Hindu family of 8 children had not eaten anything for days. I took enough rice for a meal and went to their house. I could see the hungry faces, the children with their bulging eyes. The sight could not have been more dramatic. The mother took the rice from my hands, divided it in half, and went out, When she came back a little later, I asked her, "Where did you go? What did you do?" She answered, "They are also hungry." They were the people next door, a Muslim family with the same number of children to feed who did not have any food either. That mother was aware of the situation. She had the courage and the love to share her meager portion of rice with others, in spite of her circumstances. I think she felt very happy to share with her neighbors the little I had taken her. In order not to take away her happiness, I did not take her any more rice that night. I took her some more the following day. It's powerful. In order not to take away her happiness, in order not to take away her happiness, I did not take her any more rice that night. I took her more the following day. Beautiful example, that Hindu woman giving half of the rice to another mother of a different faith. I can't help but wonder of myself, if I were in that same situation, would I have done the same that mother did? There are many studies that show that it is often those of more modest means that give proportionately more than those of abundance and wealth. I ask you one thing: do not tire of giving, but do not give your leftovers. I'm reminded of the words from John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist faith. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, for as long as you can. To me, that should be the heart of any religion or spiritual practice. We're here to do good. Amen? Amen. Amen. Are we already doing good? I think we are. Can we do better? Of course we can. Of course we can. It's the little things. It really is the little things, done by more and more of us consistently and consistently. Mother Teresa said, taught that we were to cultivate the inner life to strengthen our outer life. It becomes easier to do the hard work when we have a solid spiritual practice and platform that we are operating from. Mother Teresa said, we need to find God, and God cannot be found in noise and restlessness. God is the friend of silence. See how nature, trees, flowers, grass, grows in silence. See the stars, the moon, and the sun, how they move in silence. We need silence to be able to touch souls. Was one of the things I heard from the polling I did of the 80-plus people who participated last week in our silent retreat in Descanso, was how much the silence was important to them, how much disconnecting and being in silence in community helped to strengthen them from the inside out to meet whatever it is that they are working through or working toward. And of course, perhaps one of the most famous lines of Mother Teresa, maybe you didn't know it was from her. I know God will not give me anything I can't handle. I just wish that he didn't trust me so much. Do you ever feel that way? I know God will not give me anything I can't handle. I just wish that he didn't trust me so much. You've got to love a person who has the vulnerability and the humility to speak that way, right? I know God will not give me anything I cannot handle. I just wish that he did not trust me so much. And the very last thing of her recurring message, love of family, do the good that you can where you are, how you are, was her reminder to us to slow down and to smile. To slow down and to smile. She would often say that it amazed her how much good a simple smile can do. I will never understand all the good that a simple smile can practice. So, as you think about some of these teachings of hers, some of the ways that she inspired us to be, It all comes down to what are we going to put into practice. And I hope that, in fact, this is a hope and a prayer every Sunday that I speak, that there is something that you will hear, whether it is in words that I say or a quote that I share or a line in a song, that you will hear something that inspires you in the living of your life, not only for your own benefit and not only to transform your life, but to really be about the good that you can do in the world right where you are, with the people that you interact with, in the things that you know and the opportunities before you. Whatever it is that you connected with that you think is yours to do it as Mother Teresa would say. We cannot do great things, but we can do small things with great love. We cannot do great things, but we can do small things with great love. Namaste.